Hello, everyone. Welcome to Conscious Conversations, episode number one with Charlie and me. This is the first dialogue of however many series of this dialogue that we want to have. And this has just been a project that Charlie and I literally have been thinking about doing for a while. And the other day during a meditation, I came up with this idea of how could we bring both the medicine Charlie and I have together in a way that feels authentic and vulnerable and that can serve a greater purpose of supporting and inspiring others that listen to what we have to share. And so that was the main intention from the project. And yeah, I want to just give Charlie a moment to share herself and what it means for her to be here with me today.
Yeah, thanks, Christine Marie. Yeah, well, I just want to add to that, the what we had talked about right before we hit record on this, that we're really approaching this with a mindset of experimentation and play, and that this isn't about showing up in a very perfect or polished way. And I think that is what often creates the magic in our conversations. So I'm really excited to be a part of this. We've been really good friends for, I don't know, how long has it been now? Over a year, a couple years now, and I don't even know. We've always just had this easy, natural rapport, and things have always just clicked so easily for us. And I really want this project, this experiment to represent that easefulness and to represent, you know, the safety that I feel when I'm in your presence and when we talk about vulnerable topics and subjects and when we get really personal. And I feel like I want this to be also part of the magic for whatever this becomes.
Hmm. I love that. You couldn't have said it any better. Thank you for sharing that. And yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's been 2 years, almost two
Yeah.
years. But it feels, yeah, it's been such a rich experience for me also to feel like I don't have to show up any certain way in order to be received by you. And that has been so healing for me with many facets, but really ultimately just like feeling like our sisterhood is so strong and that we
Yeah.
can hold each other wherever we are in our process and in our journey. And I hope through these conversations that we get to also hold you wherever you are in your journey.
Mhm.
So I love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm. So today, to cap off those that are new to maybe my Substack or Charlie's Substack, both Charlie and I have separate Substacks. Where this will live is on both of our Substacks under Conscious Conversations. And there'll be a theme every month that we are going to just explore and talk about and really be real and vulnerable with. And the past month, I've been sharing about the idea of pleasure and practices of pleasure and allowing yourself to feel pleasure if, maybe it's been a challenging topic or energy for you to really enjoy or step into. And it was interesting because I remember one of the first things that you talked about when we became friends was this idea of pleasure, about how
Mhm.
like you had this like passion of talking about pleasure and you did your pleasure workshop and like and I had been reflecting on this all weekend, getting ready for our conversation, and I was like, it's so funny because I remember I could hear what you were sharing, and I thought it was really beautiful about your connection to pleasure, but I felt so disconnected from my own source of pleasure that I couldn't really fully like grasp it, Like it was like I can learn from you and how you navigated it, but I really felt like I could not meet you there. And now
Mm,
I see a whole different cycle of my healing process, allowing me to share,
yeah.
and be connected to it in a way that I wasn't able to meet you in before.
Yeah. I'm curious, was there anything that triggered that specifically for you, or a series of events or experiences or circumstances that helped you shift from not being able to really connect with your pleasure to where you are now?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just so many tools and resources, but like really it ultimately came down to realizing and recognizing that I was dissociating every time, not every time, but sometimes when I was feeling like really in a
Mm,
pleasurable state, whether it was listening to a song or like, on a bike ride or whatever, I noticed I'd be in this like really feeling the aliveness. And then
mm,
all of a sudden I'd catch myself like distracting my brain with something else, someone else, and I would take myself out of that experience.
mm,
That actually awakened through an ayahuasca ceremony, that understanding of that dissociation. And so, what I was brought into as an invitation was to, any time that then from then I was like feeling pleasure, to just put my hands on my womb and just say, I am worthy of good things. It's safe to be here.
mm,
I
mm.
deserve pleasure. And like that was like the really big kickstart to where I feel
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. Ayahuasca was what really opened up that insight for me as well.
No, really?
Parallel there? Yeah, 100%. My ayahuasca trip, like all of the psychedelic trips that I've had, was nothing like I wanted it to be or nothing that I that I expected. And I my ass was kicked the first night when I did my ayahuasca ceremony for the very first time, but it was really interesting because I in there was a portion of the journey where I saw these glittering lights and it was abstract. I couldn't exactly tell what it was, but I felt like I was standing under the like Vegas lights. And there was this energy of it of look how beautiful your life is. Look how glamorous and shiny and abundant your life is, but you're not allowing yourself to live it and you're not allowing yourself to receive and to be in that place of gratitude for all of the amazing things that you have and this incredible life that you've built. And and that was what opened me up to that idea of pleasure and wanting to, you know, cultivate a deeper relationship with my own pleasure and my own worthiness because the two are so very connected, pleasure and self-esteem and the story of being deserving of good things to happen to you. And when good things do happen to you, the ability to really open yourself up to them, and to slow down and to savor them enough in a way where you actually get to be in the moment of enjoyment. So
Wow.
yeah, I love that. Ayahuasca, the queen of pleasure. Well,
I
not in
guess
the journey, not in the moment itself, but
so.
yeah, she really opened me up to that, and I felt like after that journey, I haven't been called back to plant medicine at all yet because I feel like I'm still integrating so much of what she opened up for me in that journey. Um, and I still have that visual so clear in my head of standing under these lights and um being shown how wonderful my life was. And it was just a really powerful, symbolic moment that I'll remember forever.
Mm. Yeah, I had like full body chills when you were sharing your story, so thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
And what I find fascinating is that you and I had like a similar, you could say, journey of coming into awareness of our our state of not noticing the pleasure, the beauty of our lives, or of like the worthiness of that we have for that sense of pleasure. But it looks so different, right? Like you're standing under lights and the glitter and the glamour and all of that, and I'm like literally just listening to an Ikaros, a healing song, and I'm noticing myself like get so deep into it. Like it was like a river taking over me, like my every part of my body was just electrifying. And then it
Mm,
was like so strong. And then I just boop, I like disconnected from my body and I just started thinking about something else. And I was like,
mhm,
whoa.
mhm.
So it's really fascinating that we get to come to these inner revelations in a completely different way, even under
Mhm.
the same medicine.
Right, right. And it sounds like both of us are being pointed back to, being in our bodies because, what I found in my journey with refamiliarizing myself with pleasure is also refamiliarizing myself with my body and finding home in my body and reconnecting back to my sensory capacities as well, because pleasure isn't just an idea or the idea of feeling good. It's literally receiving the sensations of the sun on my skin or the burst of strawberry juice as I bite in, and the pleasure of having a good conversation that stimulates me intellectually, and all of that is very sensory. I have to be very aware, in a way, of what is good right now and what's abundant right now. And it is this new, I would say, in a way, it is like a new state of consciousness, that I really have to be mindful of clocking into sometimes because it's very easy to drop out of that place of pleasure, that place of presence, because the world runs on speed. And the moment that I'm trying to catch up with the rest of everything else that's going on in the world, the moment that I lose that connection to what's here right now, I lose awareness of what I'm gathering and collecting in from a sensory capacity. And yeah, and then everything just becomes very intellectual all of a sudden. So, yeah.
Is a protective mechanism from feeling, right?
Mhm,
Because if we allowed ourselves to just feel, we wouldn't have to analyze or process the feeling. We could just be in it and be
mhm,
comfortable being in it, which is, I think, one of our biggest lessons as a human being of like, how can you stay in the body, in the heart, in the womb, and connected to your um, sensations without escaping into the mind out of fear or discomfort or whatever. And I think
mhm.
that is just, comes with practice and
Yeah.
yeah, over and over and over again. It's not so easy, but it is so simple too.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And it's also rewriting the myth that pleasure has to be earned in some way, and that it is, like a transaction of some sort, but it's not. Like, we don't have to work hard for it. We don't have to trade something in for it. It is available to us and accessible at any time. And this isn't about overindulgence, right? But this is about, yeah, just really allowing yourself to take stock of what's good and what is also good enough.
Mm. Oh, I love that. Yeah. I'm curious for you, like, what did it look like before you were under the lights, being able to see the glitz and the glamour of your life and how, like, what was the maybe impact of not being able to recognize that in your life before that happened for those that might not be, have not met their like dose of feeling worthy of pleasure or,
Mm.
all that we shared.
Yeah. Well, I feel like before I found pleasure, my focus was perfection. And perfection, as as I'm sure we're all familiar with, it is an extremely contracted state. It's like wearing a straitjacket. And when you think about the image of a straitjacket, it is the very opposite of what pleasure should looks like, right? And so that is what my life was really all about. I was a chronic perfectionist and a chronic overachiever and striver. And I did build a very successful life with my career. I bought a home. I was ascending the corporate ladder. I was acquiring responsibility and I was learning and cultivating leadership in that role. And so on the outside, everything was very glitzy and glamorous, but I just could never feel complete in a way because of that perfectionism. I never could enjoy the success that I had. I could never congratulate myself in any way. And to say to myself, good job, you have arrived in some way, enjoy the fruits of your labor. And it did feel like a straight jacket. I mean, there's just no way to survive a good life if you don't have the self-esteem to tap into the pleasure. And yeah, it was a very, very challenging place to be. And I still feel the after effects of that. Like this was something that I grew up with, and this is something that I know I'll continue to dialogue with. And gently put to bed every now and then. But it also helps to create that contrast of the freedom and the comfort and the homeness that I am able to access more of now when I come back to my body and let go of the perfectionism and let go of the overthinking mind, um, and just be here right now. So, yeah.
Mm. I love you sharing that. It's bringing up the imbalance of the divine feminine and the divine masculine, right? The energies that we all have within us, no matter what you look like. Like we all have those two energies.
Mhm.
And I feel like the striving, the always achieving, the never feeling satisfied, the workaholic, the perfectionism really feels like an overdeveloped masculine, and like the receiving, right? The pleasure, the sensation, the being, the feeling, the rest, um the parts that really allow the support
Mhm.
in seemed underdeveloped, which is connected to the divine feminine. And so what I really love about your example is that it doesn't mean that that's going to be true for everybody, but that's one example of what that could look like if, you might find that you might not be in a state of being able to receive pleasure, be in a pleasurable state for too long. You might be a little overdeveloped in your masculine qualities. And that's not to say anything is bad or wrong. It's just
Mhm.
something to witness within ourselves and maybe how can we bring more balance back
Yeah.
into the body.
Yeah. What are some things that are bringing you the greatest pleasure right now?
Hmm. I mean, it's always my creative process, like
Mm.
writing, working on just my book and my baby that I'm birthing into this world. And I find that like actually when I am not creative, that is when my spark dulls the most.
Mm.
When I'm
Mhm.
not actively creating something, even if it's just again for fun, like collaging or painting or whatever, I can find myself feel really disconnected from myself. And so I will say like the art of creativity is just gold for me, and it's always something that's accessible and easy to just tap back into. And honestly, just like allowing myself to really, this might sound like trite, but like fuck around. Like I feel like I was like you in certain ways where it felt like I had to be so regimented, and you could say myself, my personality, I had to be a certain way, I had to look a certain way because of, say, who I am in my, line of work or professionalism. And I really feel like I've been able to, thanks to actually the energy of cacao, to start to break apart those egoic roles and identities that I felt like I was like being hidden behind, and start to say, you know what, like I don't have to be or present myself as a certain way in order to prove
Mm,
anything to anybody. And so if I want to, I don't know, just any, what is it?
yeah.
I don't even know what things I would stop myself from doing in order to like put on a certain like mask. But I just find those masks are like melting off, and I'm just like, I don't give a fuck. I'm gonna do what I want to do, and I'm going to enjoy it. And like, I don't care how it looks to anybody else, as long as it's bringing me joy and pleasure and it's sustaining me in a generative way. Like, I'm just going to allow myself
Mm,
that. And again, I think it comes down to actually, for me, feeling safe in my own body and my own self, to like be able to just to claim that and to also put action towards it, because it's like no matter
mm.
what happens, no matter maybe judgments or critiques or whatever anybody else thinks, like I've got me, I know me,
Yeah.
it's myself.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I hear so much self-love and self-advocacy to that. And that's why I do think it's so interesting how interwoven pleasure is with self-esteem, that, the more that you access that love for yourself and that advocacy of self, the more pleasure does become available to you because you found that safety and there's less consequence for being you. and and I think there's something about pleasure that is that as well, that it is free of consequence, that it's something that you can just sit and savor, and it's not going to hurt you. It's only here to grow you and benefit you. So, yeah, I love that. I love that you find pleasure in taking care of yourself. That's what I'm hearing when you're saying doing the things that I love and being creative and going for a run and nurturing my spark, and that to me sounds like taking care of yourself. That's self-love. And so I love that connection between the pleasure and the self-love and the advocacy of self,
Mm,
that just seems important for people who might still be learning their own path there to finding their own pleasure.
right, right. Yeah, I love the thread that you wove there. So thank you for naming that. And I'm also curious for you, what has been bringing you pleasure lately? Getting into
Oh, that's a good
wormholes.
question. Yeah. I mean, so many things. I feel like I'm such a curious person, and there's so much pleasure that I experience when I let myself go down those rabbit holes and to engage my curiosities. And I also feel very similar in that I have also wanted to nurture my creative spark. And there's so much pleasure too in expression. And I would say that that lately has been a really big theme for me, is opening up my expression, opening up my voice, and showing up in these new ways. And some of that has been, as we've talked about before, a little bit edgy for me. It feels a little bit uncomfortable and a little bit vulnerable, but in a weird way. There's also a lot of pleasure in that, because there's a part of me that is, that's sort of watching from afar and watching this person show up and challenge some old beliefs and rewrite some old edges. And I, yeah, there's so much pleasure in growth itself. So yeah, that's just what's coming up for me in terms of things that have been bringing me a lot of joy, is getting to see myself break through in these new ways, and me being like, huh, I didn't know that was there in you, but cool, amazing. I'm celebrating you at the same time. So that in a way also feels like self-love too, you know. And then beyond that, there's just trying to get out more, taking long walks in the neighborhood, connecting with people, um, yeah, being out on the water in nature. Like we went camping last week and that was very pleasurable. That was super pleasurable and super fun. And it was fun to see us as a group deepen our chemistry together. And there were points where I felt like all of us were starting to get a little bit more goofy and relaxed. And I feel like we've always been very comfortable around each other, but our camping trip in particular, it felt like we were starting to explore the goofier parts of us, and that felt really good and very joyful. So, yeah.
I'd love to be a part of that. And
Yeah.
yeah, I agree. I think the more that you really feel safe around somebody, like they get to kind of see the weirder parts of you, you know, which is such a treat. It's such a example of how safe and trusting the relationship is building, and I think that's really important. And one thing that I wanted to reflect back to is it as it was highlighted was that sounds like you and I are very similar in our path to self-discovery as being a branch of pleasure, right? As being a highway or a portal to pleasure. And I think sometimes people can be so afraid of the self-discovery journey because it can be really uncomfortable. So I think it's really actually important to name that it also can be fun and playful and pleasurable, and it doesn't have to be so daunting or scary as long as you're, really being mindful and conscious of making sure
Mhm.
that you aren't just doing such deep inner work to where you're becoming off balance with that and play and pleasure. And so I like that you named that a lot.
Yeah, it's like, pleasure is part of a healthy diet. And I think part of what we're saying too is that it's not like we're trying to encourage overindulgence or over revving on one thing, but that pleasure is a very key part of our overall human experience. We're in the process of growth and just living in a world that's constantly in flux. There's going to be discomfort and stress and hardship and challenge, which was exactly why pleasure is so key and vital to have as a part of all of the other stuff that's going on. And when we don't have that pleasure, I feel like that's when it becomes a slippery slide or slope into depression. And again, with that connection from pleasure to that we made to self-esteem, it's like without that, there's really no way back to feeling good about yourself, which is what we need more of in this world.
Totally, yeah. Well, this is so rich. There's so much we can continue to dive into. Charlie and I joke about like how every time we've had a conversation, we could have just press record and be like a 3-hour podcast. So we're not
Yep.
going to do that to you listening, but I want to just ask you, like, if I were a listener listening to us just have this conversation, and I was just like, what is one thing that I can do today to incorporate or invite more pleasure into my life? One practice, one something, what would be your advice?
I think the first thing that comes to mind is find something to laugh about.
Mm.
It's I and because I think I think what's coming in for me is that when I think about the person I was before, the chronic overachiever and perfectionist, I took things so seriously. And that was a big part of why pleasure just wasn't available. Everything was so serious. And I think it's really important to find the light side of life. Pleasure exists on that side. So, yeah, find something to laugh about because at the end of the day, this existence is so silly and so goofy on so many levels.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What
Yeah,
about you?
thank you for that. Mm. I would say, even if you don't think that you are a good quote unquote dancer, put on a song that you love and see if you can find yourself get taken over by the melody, the lyrics, and maybe find a little hip movement, a little shimmy, and allow yourself to get lost in your favorite song and see how that begins to tap into your um, ability to receive and to be in a state of pleasure.
Love
Because
that.
dancing is so much fun. It's
It's
so much fun.
so much fun. I might do that after we end this call.
We're gonna be doing that tomorrow at hip hop.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, are you going to that?
Well, yes, I thought we decided we were, but we can have that.
Oh,
We can have that later. We can talk.
okay, okay. See, something to laugh about.
Oh my God. Oh, well, thank you for joining me. I
Yeah.
love this so much.
Yeah, I'm so excited for this and where the journey that this will take us on.
Yeah, yeah. And for those listening, before we started recording, one thing I was sharing with Charlie that I feel like connects to our theme is like really not being attached to an outcome of like where this will go, how it will look, what it will shape and form it into, but really trusting the spark and the desire and the longing to like just have this container for us to have these conversations is like all that the fire that I need to just continue to show up. And then, of course, we'll see where it goes. But yeah, just feeling really present here and really connected to you in so many ways, of course. So thank you for being here with me. And thank you all for joining us and listening to us. And like, if you have any questions and you want to share what, spoke to you or anything like that, just send us a comment in the comment section or reach out to us individually, and we'd love to hear from you. So don't be a stranger. All right. Until next time, sending you all lots of love.